Going to start turning a bowl. It's a piece of timber that came from my yard, of a tree that came down. It's been sitting in the workshop in little blanks for quite a while, so this one's probably nicely seasoned. I've got it glued to just a block of pine with a few layers of paper in between so that I can hopefully snap it off separately, and then I've got it screwed onto a faceplate that's onto the lathe. The speed of the lathe I've got at the second slowest speed. Something this large, you don't want to have it spinning too fast when you're first starting to turn. And I like to set up my tool rest so that I can have it set up for doing my outside turning, and then I don't have to do too much adjustment for turning it around to do the inside of the bowl. Now the important thing is that you do have your tool rest just above center, and that's so that your tool isn't going to get caught underneath the timber as it's spinning around. Always make sure that it's nice and firm. You don't want your tool rest coming loose mid-project. And I think I'm going to start out with just a roughing gouge, just to see how I go to start off. Turn my timber around to make sure that it's going to clear the tool rest before I start, and stand to the side before I turn it on. Now I know I wasn't going to be down to round just yet, but I just wanted to see what the timber looked like. I'm not far off it being round at the top. It'd be nice if I can try and keep some of this bark in the bowl somehow, but I'll just have to see. I don't want to really have these saw marks on the side. A bit more of an idea. This timber's really tearing up on the end grain. I've still got a section there that's not quite down, and there, so it looks like I may be losing my bark edge anyway. Choose a different gouge. Okay, I now have it down to round. Looks like I'm going to lose this bark, because I do want to turn it in a little bit. Anyway. I kind of like the shaping of that, so Let's see if I can just use a little bit of a scraper on there. Stop any sort of gouging that's been happening. I'm pretty happy with that shape. I might be lucky enough to keep a little bit of that bark inclusion. If not, I don't know. I'm going to turn around and move towards the front of it now. I don't want the large gouge. So I've had to adjust the camera. I'm hoping that you're getting a good shot of the front of it now and that I'm not going to block it too much. Okay, and see that I'm set just a little bit too high because I'm getting a really large section that I'm not getting in the center. Still just a bit too high. And that's what can happen. But that's not destroyed yet, and it was just the glue that had broken, so I can re-glue that and restart it. My one problem is going to be that I may not get it perfectly glued on again. So that was just me getting too aggressive with this middle section. So looks like this video is going on hold, and I'm going to have to glue this up and wait for it to dry. For those that might be wondering why this did pop off so easily when it was on the lathe, that's because in setting up I put some glue onto the bottom of a piece of wood and I glued a piece of paper. I left that to dry. On my sacrificial bit I did the same thing. I put some glue on the timber, put some newspaper onto the glue, left that to dry. What I then did once they were dry was a bit of glue on this surface, piece of paper, another bit of glue, and then I put that on. So it meant that it popped apart really easy, which is good for when you're actually finishing off your job. So what I'm going to do now is, because my job didn't get destroyed as it flew off the lathe, is just re-glue good amount of glue on there, put a piece of paper on, Put a good amount of glue back on the base of this one. Get this lined up. And as I said, the big issue here is going to be if I don't get this really well centered back to where it was before, that my turning is all going to be out of whack. Thankfully, I hit the edge of this block just a little bit while I was turning, so it means that I do kind of have a little bit of a reference point for where the edge of this block should be. Now we wait for the glue to dry. So this project's done for the day. I'll come back to it another day to finish it off. So as expected, when I re-glued this on after it popped off the other day, it didn't quite get centered, so you can see that it's no longer in round, so I'm going to have to get it back to round again. So I'll do that. This is always a frustrating process because you've done the work at getting it to round, and when you're doing this it could decide to not play nice again. Now I've already checked whether it turns on alright. I've got the speed set at second far or second slowest. Now I'm opting for a scraper because I don't want to be too aggressive with it. I want to get it shaped back to round. Obviously got this section around. Now we'll do the stem section. Notice the front of it's also out as well. So I've got some rough sections and I have to hope that I can get that sanded out. Switch the tool rest around to facing the front and lower. So I'm going to have to true up the front again and hope for the best with the bowl because it's quite out. This is one of the reasons that I like this lathe. When you're doing bowls, you get to turn it back to the Now, I don't think I really want to go that deep with this bowl. I like the idea of having a bit of a chunky finish. I've always tried to get bowls looking thin and petite, but I like this shape. So I want the inside to kind of reflect that. Yeah, that's nice. Through the front up a bit lightly. There's a few little tears in the grain where the end grain is on this little piece of log. Looks like I've managed to keep a little bit of an inclusion. I'm going to say that my bowl shape is done. I want to get it sanded. Actually, I think I'm going to move the hole tool rest out of the way because it's a bigger job. For my sanding, I'm actually going to turn the speed up a bit. Not to the top just yet, but just one speed faster. Now, because I've still got a square block, I've got to be careful about the sanding. When it ends up. Have a look and see if so my sanding is starting to help with this end grain, so I do need to do a fair bit more there. I'm actually starting to get a bit of a burnish just from this rough piece. A bit more. still always like burnishing, just because of the sap that it gets into itself. So you can already see a shine developing on the timber just there. And that's the natural waxes in the timber basically buffing itself. So you come up with a really nice finish before you even finish. Now this is nice and hot. I'm going to put some tung oil onto it. Now when you're applying your tung oil, you don't turn the thing on and lay your brush against it, because then you'll just have tung oil everywhere. Just basically brush it on, get a good coat of it to start with, so that it can actually get all over the job, soak in. And I'm going to just give it a bit of a wipe first to get that any excess off it before I go turning the lathe back on. Then I'll just use the same cloth to buff it. Tung oil hardens up as it heats up, and you get a nice shine. I'm going to give that another light coat. First one's basically soaked into the timber and buffed up a little bit. See that it's already started to seal. It's really sealed up the timber because some of this is just trying to run straight back off it. Really nice. That's come up really nice. Now while this is nice and warm, I'm going to follow this up with a bit of wax, just to help with that shine. When you're doing this waxing process and you're trying to buff up, you really want to get the pressure onto the timber so that you're going to create some heat. That really helps waxes and oils to really polymerize. I'm really happy with that. I love the spalting that's in this timber from when it was just basically lying on the ground in my yard for a while. Looks like the grain on the inside didn't quite get closed up with the sanding. Like I've got a really good finish out here. There's still a few little open sections here. Just a couple of little spots here, but the inside probably could have done with a little bit more. But anyway, now I've just got to make sure I can get this off this block safely and sand the bottom off. We'll see how we go with that. So this is the first time I've ever done this, so it's going to be a test. I'll actually get an apron. Trying to be really gentle with this. It wasn't as painful as I was thinking it was going to be, thankfully. Now I just need to get this paper sanded off the bottom back so I'm back to the timber, and this will be a nice bowl.